all caught by surprise. Very unfortunate, and there's not a lot I can say beyond the statements that we previously made. It's a criminal case at this point, and until that's resolved, there really won't be any further comment from us or anyone else, I think, in the organization.
How much communication have you had with him in the past 6 days?
Very little. A couple of occasions, checking in, see how he's doing. But other than that,
how is he doing?
That's a good question. Difficult for me to know at this point.
With all due respect to what you said to Puma's question, do you solely let the legal system play out, or do you guys do your own sort of fact gathering along with that to address the situation?
As long as this is a proceeding that is unresolved, we really have to take a step back and make sure that we're not interfering with the process. So to this point, we have not done any fact gathering. He has a hearing coming up, as I understand it, in October, and if it's resolved at that time, or perhaps before or after, whenever that resolution takes place, then we'll become more involved.
Can you envision a scenario in which he returns as not the acting GM, but as the GM?
Yeah, I really can't comment on that at this point. That wouldn't be fair to the process that's ongoing, or to him or the organization.
You were hired for this job about a year ago, and you anticipated having a president of baseball ops and a GM, and now you have neither, and you're doing it all. What has that been like? What is that like?
Well, it's only been a week or so. And the fortunate thing is that we're past the trade deadline, and really what we're talking about is managing the current roster, watching the waiver wire, and where there are significant issues, they relate to 2022.
Yes.
So we do have some decisions we have to make going into 22. Not just in terms of individual players, but also just a general approach to 2022. So, in that sense, it's an important period of time. But in terms of making the train run on time, it's not a burden. Now I'm spending more time on the baseball side and delegating more on the business side. But just as in November, the important thing in November was to be able to stay up with the baseball calendar, make sure that we weren't falling behind. So I think that's true as well now.
What does Steve think of all this?
It's a good question. I think that he understands the ups and downs of a season. I think he understands how perhaps unusual this season has been. But I don't think it's deterred him from his enjoyment of the team, and look, it's an experience for him just like it's an experience for the rest of us. I've been around a long time. I don't think I've ever been through a year like this. So we all learn something, whether we've been around for a year or for longer.
Each of your past three major hires have ended up behaving in ways that could be charitably described as unbecoming.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's incredibly unfortunate, and I'm personally sort of chagrined by the whole thing. But to a large extent, they're unrelated, each one of them. And I'm not sure that it points to a single flaw in our hiring process, but it's obviously caused us to take a hard look at it, which we continue to do. So, each one of those cases was a little bit different.
So do you make anything of it, or not really?
I make something. Certainly I do. Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, you could say, well, it's a coincidence. On the other hand, you have to take a hard look and say, so what are we doing here? What am I doing here? What needs to change in our selection process? And believe me. Now, 2 of those hires were made at roughly the same time, so it's not like there's been this periodic failure on our part. But obviously, we've looked hard at it, and have to continue to do so.
You said when you were hired or at the introductory news conference in November that you're not going to do this forever. You don't want to die with your boots on, I think were your words.
Yeah.
A busy 10 months later, do you have any clarity in your own mind about how long you want to do this?
No. I work for Steve, and yeah, as I said, I'm not going to do this forever, but as long as I'm needed, I'll be here.
Has he given you any indication that he wants you back next year?
I haven't talked to Steve about any of that.
Okay.
Yeah.